Hello, this is JP and Rohan, your non-geek, non-nerd hosts, and you are watching the
Absolute Game of Nerd!
With us today, we have
every time-
Dan, our guest Dan. Rohan, please introduce our guest.
Real quick, I want to say I always love when you play that intro. There's always a pause and you have a slight grin on your face, JP, like you're a proud dad of making that little.
My son made that. Yep.
Yes, another great guest we got today. We have Dan's Xmencomics. Dan's a collector that I met way back, but we never really developed and talked that a lot, the kind of relationship. And then more recently, we just started talking. It actually started because I reached out to Dan to kind of do me this big favor, which I talked about on a video where he was going to a con that Art Adams was at. And I thought Art Adams made the original Silver Surfer card that I first fell in love with. And I was going to get him to send it and sign it for me. And Dan was gracious enough to take it. And then we learned it was not Art Adams that drew that card. Anyways, long story short, we now know the artist of that card is Paul Ryan. But that conversation started me and Dan talking more. And now we got this big, great group thread with me, Dan, JP, Ryan, Class Collector, Mike, and it's fantastic. We're talking all the time now. But Dan, say hello. How's it going, man?
Hey, going really good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah.
And, so that's the Illuminati. That's the Illuminati.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, so for everyone, you may hear us say this term. So like the group is like me, now JP, Dan, Ryan Class Collector, Mike from Lunch Money Comics, Big Me McFly, the comic guy, Mr. Akins from What's on the Comic Rack, Ryan from Collecting Casual. All these guys, if they haven't been on their show, they're actually going to be on our show in the next few weeks. And it got dubbed the Illuminati. And Colossus Collector Ryan is a graphic designer. I don't know if it's something in graphics. And he photoshopped each of our faces on a member of the Illuminati. So, for example, me, I got put on Professor X because I'm bald, obviously. But we got to come up with, we need to add you.
What about me? I'm bald too. I should be.
Yeah. We need to add you to the Illuminati pick, JP. Yeah. But so if you hear us say Illuminati, that's what we're referring to. It's a dumb thing, but it's fun. But anyways, Dan, cool, we always talk about what is your origin story? Your name is Dan's Xmencomics. We know you're an X-Men fan. Highly likely, very similar story, but take us through it. What was the origin story?
Yeah, like it's funny. Like I've been like thinking about, well, what is my origin story? Because there's so much in my past that I forgot. You know, just kind of that comes up as I think more about it. But honestly, I guess it came around when I was in third grade. Must have been early 90s or so, 93 or so. And we were into Pogs. And my friend introduced me to, or rather I had seen the X-Men arcade game. I watched Ninja Turtles and other cartoons, superhero cartoons. And my friend, at the time, Nico, he had introduced me to comic books, and he would tell me, hey, this is where this show X-Men came from. This is where Ninja Turtles came from comics originally. All of these characters that we enjoy came from comics, and he got me into cards. I don't collect cards really. I have a shoebox of them, but I know Rohan, you're really into cards. I think it was the Series 2.
Oh yes, Series 2 is what my first taste as well.
Yeah, it was in 92, 93, like Impel or whatever, Skybox.
Yeah, Series 2 is 91, Series 3 is 92.
Okay. It must have been those because I think, like I said, it was 93. So it was looking at those cards, seeing the characters, and looking on the back to see their stats.
Yeah, the power ratings, man.
Yeah. So that was just super cool. It was like your own analog video game right there.
Yeah.
So that was just so cool. And I loved, the Jim Lee art. Loved that. So I started going to a comic book shop and I would buy the X-Men one. Didn't understand why there was 5 of the same, copy. But
also, did you believe at the time, because we all had X-Men 1 and we're like, dude, we got an X-Men 1 in so many years, this book is going to be worth so much money. Like,
for sure. Oh, and that was the thing. Thank you for bringing that up, because that was the thing that really got me hooked. I never really saw cards as valuable. Maybe sports cards I saw as valuable, rookie Michael Jordan cards, things like that. But the comic books, when I saw like many people see, you know, they see a comic behind the glass or on the wall, and you see so ever many dollars associated with it. That's when I kind of got hooked. Like, wow, comic books can have value. And I, as a kid, would sell my toys or just I love to sell things. I always wanted a store. And so that just always attracted me, just having a collectible or something that you like and it's worth money. I always thought that was just
something that's in demand.
Exactly. And I know, and honestly, that's probably a lot of what drives my collection goals. Like, it's kind of embarrassing to admit that I care a lot about what other people think about my collection.
Real quick, is there a TV on in the background?
Yeah, I'm listening to YouTube in the back.
Okay.
I tried to turn it down, but I guess this new mic's picking it up.
Oh, okay.
Hey, nice mic. Yeah.
$5 at the auction. I can turn it off if you want.
You have an auction, you said? Is that what?
I have an auction every Tuesday night, and I go each week. And 2 weeks ago, I got some Xmen comics I showed recently. I picked this up for $20 with a whole lot of them, and then I got stuff today.
That's right. That's right. Great deal on that, by the way. Yeah, and congratulations on your Spotlight 5.
Oh, thank you. Yep, that's a nice piece.
Yeah, if you can, Jay, because definitely picking it up, and I'm like, what is that sound coming from?
It's probably the Comics Den or Hunter talking back there. So hold on.
Anyway, so Dan, so when you started collecting, did you only collect X-Men then, or did you collect, Turtles as well? Which is funny because I actually didn't know Ninja Turtles was a comic book until I got back into the hobby in the last year that Ninja Turtles started in comics. I always assumed it was the toys and the cartoons, similar to Transformers, but then obviously I learned different. But did you collect anything else besides X-Men as a kid?
When I was a kid, it wasn't, I don't even know if I would call it collecting. I still didn't treat my comics very well. I didn't really know that condition was a thing. So I knew that it was like valuable, but I didn't know that something in poor condition would be less valuable than something in great condition. So I didn't, what I did buy was just whatever looked cool, whatever cover looked cool, whatever I would flip through. And if it intrigued me, I would buy it. So that was usually like, I would pick up some Batmans or Detective Comics around like the 600 numbers. I would just buy whatever looked cool. I was also into a lot of like kind of like satire-y sort of comics and independent stuff like Samurai Penguin or Naming Carrot, Milk and Cheese, these types of just different weird zany characters, Captain Carrot. And I also liked like certain like violent-y type of comics as well. So I had a stack of comics, in a plastic bin. And then I think when I went to middle school, I just gave them all to my friend.
Yeah, same thing. It was like, you got to this point, I was like, I'm moving on to sports cards. I literally just gave them away.
Yeah. I gave them to my friend Nico, who got me into it. I thought, hey, I don't really use these anymore. I don't think I had anything of value. Actually, I do have a funny story. I had an Xmen 59, and I was a shyster, like I feel like back in the day. So I was like, dude, I'm gonna give you my Xmen 59, and I signed Stan Lee on it. I was like, it's signed by Stan. I'm gonna give it to you. And he's like, dude, this isn't Stan Lee's signature. I'm like, dude, just take the gift, and
You're like Lloyd in Dumb and Dumber that sold the headless bird to the blind kid.
Well, I didn't sell it though, but I thought that like, oh, he'll really appreciate this even more. Like, it's
sold
like,
some things. What'd you sell? PD.
Yeah,
the blind kid.
Yeah, pretty bird. So yeah, he was just like, well, thanks, but like, okay. I think like I was like really into signatures back in the day, and I like had my dad sign. I was like, hey Dad, will you write Michael Jackson on this piece of paper? And he was like, okay. Like in cursive. And he was like, yeah, okay.
Well, that's actually funny though. Like, I actually remember, because when I got into sports cards, like I remember like we would go to, Gary Payton came to JCPenney. We would go wait in line and get his autograph. And I remember like when you'd go to the sports card store, they'd have various autographed items there often. And I remember my brother would often try to like mimic their autographs. And then I remember like, we're like, oh, we're going to be athletes when we're older, so let's come up with a cool signature for our own names. And like, No, I get that.
Yeah.
I
Oh
totally
yeah,
get
we
that.
all like would sign our names like, when I'm famous, this is what mine's gonna look like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
in this case, like I was just doing it for like the clout, I think, like in 3rd grade. So I did it and like it was show and tell, and I was like, I got Michael Jackson's signature. And like something was like, this isn't Michael Jackson's signature. And everybody was just kind of like, this, what is,
But how did that kid know that? He was full of shit probably because he had no idea.
You know, and I can't remember anybody actually calling me out, but I remember thinking like, this is going to be so cool, and everybody's going to think I'm so cool about like with this. And
that literally probably blocked it out in your mind that you should have a story to go with it to like authenticate it. You're probably just like, people are just gonna be so awestruck by this autograph that no one's gonna ask me about it.
I think that was it. It was just like, oh, everybody passed it around and like that was it. And I was like disappointed that nobody reacted, that it was so cool. And so anyway, you know, like later then I think that must have been around the time where like I knew that there was a value to signatures, right? And I think I enjoyed them back in the day. Nowadays I really don't care too much, but I think I do. I'm just lying to myself. But it did teach me a valuable lesson that like you really can't, you know, you can't trust, you know, a signature is legit. Therefore, I kind of try to make a little rule for myself that I will not pay extra for a signature, nor do I go after like a signature series or like am interested in paying for a.
I'm the same way, because it's like if there's a book I want, like I understand what the market is for it and I'll pay fair market for it, but like I don't need to pay the added premium because it's signed by whoever. Like I'd rather just save a little money and get the book, because what's more important to me is the book, not the signature. Yes.
And then that said, I've found that I'm lying to myself that I don't care, because when I had picked up my giant size Xmen and the guy didn't mention anything about it, and I was flipping through it and I saw the Dave Cockrum signature, my heart fluttered, right?
I was like, I mean, but that's like a cherry on top situation. That's like, it's kind of like, you know, when they say like money won is better than money earned, like when you're gambling or whatever, like, it's just like you gambled on the Xmen, but you won the Dave. Like, I think that's a little different.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But back to the origin story, I just kind of like forgot about comics, but it was always a part of me. Like I liked video games then in middle school and then in high school. So I still liked the X-Men and I enjoyed the show. But that was the one staple. And, you know, I liked Batman and all the superheroes. I just didn't collect comics again until after high school, moved to Portland, Oregon. And it's a really big like comic culture. But it was I hate to admit it again, but it was the movie that came out in 2001, I think.
X-Men 1?
When was it? Yeah.
Yeah, X-Men. I want to say it was like 2003. It was like the middle of when I was in college, and I went to college 01 to 05.
Okay, yeah, and I graduated high school in 2003. So it was just after then when I was getting pretty hyped about it and feeling like, wait, I used to really like X-Men. That's when I learned, okay, well, what about these other stories? Like, where are these? I know there's older X-Men than X-Men 1 from Jim Lee. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started to see, the numbers in like the 200s of the back issues, and thinking like, what the hell? Like, I thought I had number 1, but there's also this older team. I didn't really understand the difference between Silver Age like team and how that transferred over to the new team. So I was like, well, I love Wolverine. I love these other X-Men characters, Colossus, Storm. I'm going to try to start where they started and go after these books. Now that I have a job, now that I'm an adult, I can afford, $10 books or whatever.
Yeah, and you know what I would say, what was also really confusing to me back then with that situation was that the original 5 X-Men then became X Factor. And I was like, wait, I don't get it, because like, especially in the cards, like, they'd have the X Factor card to have those original 5, but then like Cyclops would be on the X-Men card still. And I was very confused by that situation. And then the new X Factor came in and all the 5 original X-Men came back to the X-Men. So I was always like, how did that work out? I've now since learned all about that as an adult, but like back then I was definitely confused by that.
I'm honestly still confused. I I know more about it now, but I think I also choose to just be like, if I don't understand it, or if I'm not really into it, I'll just kind of like be like, that doesn't really exist. And that's just because that's just because I just like to pay attention to what I like to pay attention to, right?
Yeah.
And so eventually, during that time, that's when I accumulated probably most of my comics, and I would just be on eBay during work. I was like a cook at that time. Anytime I had a break, I'd go over to the company computer, jump onto eBay, look at the auctions ending soonest, and just buy whatever comics. Like I got like that's where I got like a Silver Surfer 3. No idea that it was first.
That's a great book.
No idea who Mephisto was, but it was like, huh, that looks old. That looks like it's no way to tell what the value was.
No key collector back then, no GPA.
Exactly. Yeah. So there was nothing I could compare to. It was just like, well, I got $10 or I got $20, and that feels like a cheap price. So I would just bid on it, and then you get that endorphin rush, and it's a total addiction. And I've always had a very addictive personality when it comes to anything, any hobby I'm into, I'm in it 100%. I consume only that media. So I've been watching you guys a lot recently, and a lot of other YouTubers. It's just feed that to me.
Oh, yeah.
I don't watch anything else. It's an obsession,
Can I ask real quick? Because you're Dan's X-Men Comics. You only really post X-Men Comics. Do you still have that Silver Surfer 3?
I sold it to get to work toward the Xmen 94.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it was in dog shit condition for sure. There was tape on it. There was like tape stains. The cover was just barely hanging on, and there was several tears and creases. But I guess I sold all of those types of comics, anything that had value that wasn't X-Men at the time. And the reason why I sold those was because I felt like I needed a goal to go for. And I had always wanted a giant size X-Men and an X-Men 94, but I could never afford them. In fact, even back in the day, the X-Men 101, the first appearance of the Phoenix,
yeah.
I mean, it was a $60 book or a $100 book. And I had only been buying, $10, $20 books, which would have been like the X-Men 129 or the X-Men 133 back in the day. And by back in the day, 20 years ago. It's crazy.
Yeah, 20 years ago, yeah.
And those books weren't really that big. It was just, they were cool, but now they're like big keys, or it feels like in the X-Men world anyway. I just kind of planned to sell them all. And the focus was similar to like in a role-playing game, the way that you min-max a character. You always, you don't want to have your warrior be good at magic. You want to use those skill points toward their skills, their strength, their, dexterity or whatever. So in this case, I knew, okay, the thing that I know the most about is X-Men, and I still don't know everything, but I certainly don't know everything, but I know more about X-Men, and I enjoy X-Men a lot. So I should just focus on X-Men, because otherwise I'm the fish, right? Like I'm the guy who doesn't know enough and I'm going to get ripped off. So as long as I stay in my lane and just know X-Men or a specific part of X-Men, because if I collected all X-Men stuff too, it would be too much for me. So I really just stay to the things that interest me the most at the moment, which is Dave Cockrum, John Byrne, X-Men, Chris Claremont. So for a while I would just collect different John Byrne stuff or different Chris Claremont stuff. And then I'd realize even though I enjoy that art or I enjoy the stories, I also like to, again, the addiction, I like to complete runs. And so I found myself, if I got a lot of comics or, a certain amount of issues, I'd want to fill in the gaps and realize how kneecapping that could be for the money that I would be spending toward the books that I do really want, like X-Men 94, giant size X-Men.
So would you call yourself then a run collector?
I was a run collector, and then now, I'm at a crossroads, and I'm hoping that you guys could help talk, help me
so,
figure this out, because
okay, so then
Mr.
let's go
Rohan
back.
has an idea to tell you. He's very
Oh,
opinionated.
I know he has his opinions, and he will just.
I have opinionated. I've never denied that.
He
I
is
will
the
say-
salt to my pepper, and he is the yin to my yang.
But as I told you, JP, if we all just agreed on the same thing, this crap would be boring. It's fun to get the difference. But so let's start back. As a run, what was it Xmen, Giant Size Xmen 1 and then 94 to 300, or what was the run you were collecting?
That would be what I had always been going after since the early 2000s. I always wanted that. So I had been, but primarily the John Byrne run and Dave Cockrum from 94 to 143. But also I collected, but my plan was to collect all the way through 300, right?
143, was that the last of the Days of Future Past?
No,
that was the one after.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the last Days of Future, but that was the one right after this, right?
Right.
Yes.
Like Kitty Pryde's on the cover. It's a Christmas issue. It's like a kind of a one shot in a way. Like X-Men are
last
away.
time Claremont was on it, right? Until
X-Men. Claremont wrote up until 300.
Like 270 something.
Yeah.
Just after Gambit's first appearance. Yeah.
But then he came back for X-Men 1.
He came back for a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
Just 1 to 3.
Yeah,
and then
1 to 3.
X-Men 4, First Omega Red, was Jim Lee's art and Jim Lee's story. And Claremont was out at that point. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I actually just recently saw something. And there's a Chris Claremont documentary on Amazon now that you can watch too. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, he talks about, because he was writing the most popular book at the time, which was X-Men. And then they asked him to start up a new line. That's when we started New Mutants. New Mutants got very popular. So he was writing, like, at the time, 2, if not 3 of like the 5 most popular comics.
And I think they didn't really even want him to write those other ones, but he was like, no. We have to have this. And
then it just came to a point, like I read recently, like they were just like, okay, these guys are getting old. Not their comics were still at the peak, but they're like, we just need to go younger. And they brought in, like, it was Liefeld, and then I think Fabian Nicieza was like the first writer, and they were just like, you're out for no reason other than they're just like, we need to get younger, even though they were still super. So it's a very, and that's why I think Chris Claremont talks about, like, the end was not a pleasant experience and why it took him so long to come back.
It wasn't treated right.
Yeah,
my interpretation was like that artists were just so popular in the 90s. So Jim Lee was the hot new thing. Rob Liefeld, Todd McFarlane. That was what Marvel saw as selling comics, was the art and not the story. So at that point, I want to say that, like, and then Jim Lee, like anybody who's working in an industry, they want to make their way up and up the chain. And I think that there was, even though they respected each other, there was just a lot of feuds in the same way that John Byrne feuded a little bit with Dave or with Claremont about like, for example, they would Claremont would have this idea like, okay, well, we're going to show that, like, Colossus is, like, weak, like getting weaker right here, finding out that he's not as strong as he thought he was. But John Byrne was like, no, this guy's made of steel. He's super strong. I'm going to show him, like, lugging out this tree. And then Claremont, like, filled in the words to be like, and, like, he uses every ounce of strength to pull the final log out. And John Byrne was like, fuck this. Like, I'm out of here.
It is nice to see, though, like, you do see now, like, Jim Lee and Chris Claremont are friends. And so that it's good that they've, put that past behind them and made up. And
I don't necessarily think that Jim Lee's a dick. Like, I think Liefeld and McFarlane can be that way. I don't think Lee is that way.
Yeah. I'm just saying in general,
like,
it's just nice that, like, whatever broke them apart, like, they've moved past it.
Yeah.
And I think it was just like, I think I'm going to speculate, but I think that there's a lot of personality with McFarlane and Liefeld, where Jim Lee should have as much, but I think he's a little more, not docile, but just maybe easier going. And Claremont probably had enough after what happened with Byrne and was like, I'm not dealing through this again. I'm just speculating, but
no, I think that's a fair speculation.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm nothing against McFarlane or Liefeld. I mean, they are what made the 90s. I have to tell you.
Yeah, but we don't get. I think we have enough evidence to show that Liefeld is a bit of a dick. So, like,
didn't he just say something?
There's like firsthand evidence from a lot of us now, right?
He said that thing about Wolverine recently, which is just the most mind-boggling thing. Like, he wrote, and again, like, even if like it's just you're never gonna win fans saying something. He said no. He's like Jim Lee did not draw a better Wolverine.
Oh my
those
God,
of you that think that are just blinded by your childhood nostalgia. And then like there's a picture of his Wolverine and Lee's Wolverine, and it's just like, bro, even
did he
the
have breasts like that picture of Captain America?
You know what's funny about that? He was just at New York. He was just at New York Comic Con,
and he made it funny.
And that original art was there, and he was like making fun of it with his own thing. It's like, so he recognizes it's ridiculous. But anyways, like the two side by side, his Wolverine is just not even close compared to the Jim Lee, and it's just like, why are you even like? It's just so. We don't need to get into the whole Rob Liefeld, but it's just like, what is? Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Liefeld's stuff, to be honest. So.
Yeah, I hear you. It was at the time, hair flowing in all directions, was really cool. He always draws the same hair for everybody. Like they all have like little.
You see, I don't know if you guys watch Lords of the Long Box.
I don't watch it.
Check them out because they give you like the top 10 hottest comics and the top 10 like trending comics. So they're ones you never heard of. They call it like an Ophir list that no one has these books. They're very rare books. But Bloodstrike. Do you guys remember Bloodstrike Image from the 90s?
I remember that name.
It was the first thermo comic that if you touched it, it turned red where it was black.
Okay.
You can find them just about anywhere. But Liefeld made that, and he's going to make it into a movie. And so that book's trending now. But if you look at the cover, Liefeld drew the cover. There's a guy that looks just like Cable. Guy looks just like Wolverine. I mean, a total knockoff of the X-Men. It looks like, the X-Force #1 or whatnot. But, I mean, that's all he did. The same character. There's no difference.
Yeah.
You don't know the difference between one and the other. He makes them so similar.
The one thing I'll give Liefeld credit is no one draws gun pouches and cargo pockets better.
Mm-hmm. He actually has a character called the Pouch. He's like full of pouches. It's hilarious. You should look it up. It's pretty funny.
Oh, that's funny.
But I have to say, his cover for X-Force, his cover for New Mutants, like he really was almost like Keith. Who's that guy? David Keith or Keith that drew Max?
Oh, Sam Keith.
Sam Keith. I mean, very definitive drawing, like Lee and McFarlane, and then he got sloppy along the way, and he's got back to
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, like his '90s stuff that we're talking about that made him famous, like is great. Like even though I make fun of it and like they have tiny heads and things like that, I still dug it. But like I'm just talking about more like the attitude he always gives, like it's holier than thou, and his opinion is all that. Well,
he made Deadpool. He invented Deadpool and Cable. So I mean, that
gives
you clout.
That to me is just off-putting.
I understand that, and he does feel a bit exhausting to me. Yeah, like with the way that he's just hoppy, it's too much for me. But I mean, I don't know him. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah,
don't meet your heroes either. Like I've had too many like sports memories of meeting people that I'm like, oh, I'm your biggest fan, and whatever, kid.
Yeah, JP's got one of those stories.
Oh,
with Barry Bonds, was it JP?
Barry Bonds. Yep.
Oof.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. So anyways, that was the run you collected, and so now you're evolving. Tell me about what are your new tastes? What are you?
I don't know. Are you saying I'm evolving because that's just the natural progression? Or
I think all of us collectors evolve, right? I think especially as time goes on, like because again, like we were talking about this today on our text thread, like Brand was like, how come I buy a book that I really, really want? And then I get it, and then the next thing I know, I'm looking for
that's what I had
the next
said,
one, right? And simple is right because, I only put the 1 point, but I actually think two things. One, what we love the most is the hunt, and two, we love the community aspect. At least I do, right? Like we love to show, like, oh, I got that book. Or we like to talk to our friends about what we're looking for and what we're seeing, and oh, I saw it there. I wasn't gonna get that one yet, though, or that one wasn't nice enough, or oh, I thought it was a little too overpriced. And then when you get like, oh, I got it, you show it off, blah, blah, blah. And then that moment passes and you want that next hunt to talk about.
Over. That moment is done. That
and so
is in your box.
Yeah.
And what do you do after that? I like the way that JP is displaying his. I don't really have it's super.
Yeah, I'm saying like I don't have a display space either at the moment. So
but the thing of it is I have the same display, like from behind. I have all of them on the wall in front of me here. And I haven't really changed out what's in front of me because I kind of have 2 tables next to me that display the stuff I find. So I don't know where to put stuff at, and I'm running out of room in this room's probably, I don't know, 15 by 8 maybe. So I'm running out of wall space, and I don't have more to display because I keep finding cool things like this or that freaking weird Tales behind me. I just got, where's it at right there?
Oh, you did pick that up today. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, I find weird stuff like that. And mine again is the hunt, and it's finding that thing that I saw in a YouTube video, and then you see it in the wild that like I've never seen before. I found Dolphin DC Showcase. I don't know if you know what Dolphin is.
You mean I remember the cover with the woman diving into
diving,
yes.
What's funny is Mike was telling us that how he wanted that book, and then JP found it, and Mike's like, I'll trade you for it.
I was like, no. I mean, I found that like it was in an antique store in this case, and the guy had a stack of DC Showcase. So again, who the hell knows what could have been there, right? I'm like, oh, can you get into that case? And she's like, I can't find the key. Then she finds the key and she gets the stack out. None of them are bagged or boarded. I'm looking through them. I see Dolphin. I'm like, put that down. I found a couple other ones. I'm like, how much are these? And she's like, there's not a price. I said, I can't find the price. And she's like, well, he's in a nursing home, so I don't know what we're going to do. I'm like, oh, shit, I need this. I want this book, She's like, oh, wait, it's on the back.
Wait, real quick, JP. You really wanted it because you wanted to show it off to Mike, didn't you?
I forgot Mike even said that, but I know you don't see that book. It's just one of those things you don't see out. Like, it's just not, you go to a show, I don't see, Dave Stevens books aren't out very often. Like Batman 227, not many people have those displayed. When people get those, they keep them, right? Like, I don't see very many people at shows selling those. It always seems like the same books, and I'll go around asking for certain books and no one has them. So that showcase was one that's like, you don't see it, you got to grab it. And, if Mike would offer me.
What did you do in that situation when she was like, I don't know what we're going to do here?
I just pulled out my gun and said, listen here, give me my damn book. She looked at the back. The guy had written the price on the back in pencil, $50 on the back. Okay. I was like, why do you write on the back of the damn book? But either way, it's in pencil. You can erase it out. But I was like, man, $50. Who knows when the hell he put it up for $50? It could have been 2018,
Yeah.
I have probably no idea what the value of that is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably 100, 150. So I paid less, but I bought another book for $50 that's worth half that. So all in all, I'm $75 in the Dolphin book, and might get 100 for it. But again, it's a cool cover. If you like the,
it is.
So going back though to what we were talking about, dance is like as we get further and further in the hobby, like you just kind of need that bigger kill
fix.
Yeah, fix, however you want to look at it. And so you then naturally progress to, I don't need 10 $5 books. I'd rather have one $50 book. And then I don't need one $50. I don't need three $50 books. I'll buy one $150. And it just kind of naturally moves on. And I also think in your situation, when you are a run collector, I think a lot of run collectors get to this point where it's like, I can't forever be a run collector because I'm going to run out of space.
Yes.
Right. And so it's like, what of these books, I don't want to hold them all, but what do I want to keep? You want to keep the great issues, the key issues. And so then like, it's an easy transition to make from that run collector down to the key collectors. Now you've consolidated down your collection. And then again, it just kind of keeps building and layering up on top of that, I think is what we find.
Yeah. And I'm no different with that. And I think that I'm learning from everybody that is on YouTube or Instagram or whatever I can find. I'm learning from the folks that have been collecting for years and years and years. And I'm thinking about what troubles they ran into and how they progressed. And, just like looking up like walkthroughs or like cheats on a video game. I know I have a lot of like equates to a video game. You see somebody else do it and you realize the mistakes that they made early in the game. Same thing with collecting. Like, okay, these are the mistakes that I made early on. If I can just skip that step, then I'm one step closer to the goal. Mm-hmm. It gets kind of morbid, like thinking about the future and what my end goal is. But I do enjoy thinking about that stuff. Like, what do I want to do with the collection at the end of my days? Because I'm finding that most collectors that have these amazing books end up just selling them so that they can take a vacation with their kids or something. And, so you got to realize that, like, even though we may not feel it right now, if that many people are doing the same thing, that's probably gonna be what happens to me, or that is what's really important: family and friends, and maybe not so much the collection. That said, I want to make sure that I have a collection that I'm super proud of, and some of that, being proud of. Sorry, I'm realizing that I'm just about to go on a tangent somewhere else. I'll stick to the goal. So right now, the goal is, I think I want to just have like 2 short boxes. I don't have a whole bunch. Like a lot of people have like, dozens of long boxes. I only have, I don't know, maybe if I put them all into a long box, 4 or 5 long boxes. So I have, so I think like I'm pretty much just doing my personal collection of high valued books, which takes up about a half of a short box. And then I have my Xmen run that I really care about, the giant size to 142. That's what I really care about. And then like, and then I have like a little stack of books that don't have quite as much value, but they're like my childhood books, something that I found in my mom's basement, or something or I've picked up copies like, I remember I had that, I'm going to buy that now. So I have that because that's fun to flip through and remember. And then I have like, and then most of my other stuff is just like either duplicates that I've separated that I can sell for something bigger, but I don't know what that bigger book will be.
I mean, I am a big proponent of, I like to long-term plan. Like I already know the books I'm going to target in 2024. And I also know like a couple of the books I'm going to target in 2025. If, obviously things change and those aren't concrete plans, but I also think it's a good kind of thought experiment to be like, what is my dream PC look like? Right. For some people, like, we just interviewed Alan last week or 2 weeks ago.
His collection is crazy.
30,000 books. Like he loves that. Like that's what he wants.
He don't want to sell anything either.
No.
Yeah.
And to each their own. Like we all have an idea of what or at least have thoughts of what our dream PC is. And, especially after you get after the initial kind of like you're back into the hobby, like this is fun, I'm just buying these books that don't really matter. Once you kind of get past that initial like hype phase, you really start to settle down and you think about like, what is my dream PC? And, I think it's great to kind of make a path and journey to how am I going to get there?
Yes. And that's the thing for me right now. I think I need to stop and think, what is the ideal collection look like? Because the only book I'm really missing is a Hulk 181. Mm-hmm. And I guess I got to get the Hulk 180, and then 182. I guess like.
I mean, I think that depends. You'd be surprised. I think both JP and I have 181. Would we both like 180? Definitely. And I'm open to getting it, but I'm not driven like I am towards the 181. I will get a 180 when I find one for a steal, is kind of how I look at it. Like it doesn't, whereas like 181 is like, I strategized, I planned, I sold, I traded, however to get to 181. Mm-hmm. I got 181, 180. I'm just waiting for that steal of a deal to come across and snag.
Yeah. I'm still waiting to find one of them at a garage sale.
Yeah.
and that's part of it too. Like Rohan, you say that like you have your 2024 goals lined up. Something that I feel like I've learned just over the last couple of years is that, and this is my experience getting the Xmen 94. I got it last year. So 2022 in May, I think that's when I got it. And so that was like just as the market was starting to do the downturn, I believe. And I remember thinking like, and I worked really hard to sell all of these raw comics to get the money to buy it. And now like, I'm just seeing them for 1/3 the price that I was going after, because I was just so amped to have it. I was like, I need it this year. This is my goal and I'm going to get it. And I have $1,000 now, so I'm going to buy it. So I spent $1,000 for a 7.0, which is now maybe worth, I don't know, 600 or something. And not to say that like, well, I didn't time the market correctly, but I'm finding that, holy shit, like when I just have a broad spectrum of, okay, these are the books that I want, I'll just keep my eyes open. And then when I see something in that spectrum that is a great deal that like I just cannot pass on, then I'll get that.
Yeah,
so
I think it's a futile experiment to wallow in the I paid then this and now it's worth this, because it is a very fickle market. I do think in the long run, we're talking like 20-year plus kind of range. If you're buying the right stuff, these big keys like you're talking about, like those will, I think you'll still make out of. But like, especially like we all got back into this, a lot of us got back into this in 2021, 2022. And it's like any of us that bought books on them, guess what? We all lost money on that. As long as you're paying current fair market value, you should feel fine about your deal. Like, and if you found it below, like even better. But like, if you're worried, like, oh my gosh, I got first Deadpool and it's worth $200 less now because I bought it in 2021. It's just like, well, take that cost and say like that's your enjoyment cost. Like, don't worry about it.
There's a difference between I bought, a 9.4 New Mutants for $500, now it's $400, or if 600 I got it and it's 400. Whereas if you had the jerk off variant of the jerk off
Ultimate Fallout 4.
Yeah, it was $35,000 at one point, right?
Was that 40? I think it peaked at 43.
Yeah.
Now it's at 17. You're like, holy shit, I just got rammed on that one.
I also do think in that scenario though, JP, like if you're buying a $43,000 book, your income statements are much larger than it really matters. That you're like, yeah, whatever. Like,
well, maybe it's relative to the $200 loss we took on New Mutants to that, but
exactly, yeah. Like, I mean, I hope at least like no one's making like $60,000 a year and buying a $43,000 comic book.
Like, I mean, they're definitely.
I'm sure there are people that is making that mistake, but like,
think about it. There are a lot of people that did the GameStop short.
Yeah, that's
that
true.
Probably shouldn't have played that game, and so that does happen. People get into hype and whatnot. So I wouldn't say it's all millionaires buying that book, but
yeah, that's true. Very true.
You're probably some combination of that too, but it's all relative to what you lose. And again, if it's a $10 book that's not worth $1, or you spec'd on something, that's not a big deal. But if it was a couple $1,000 you might have lost, then
yeah,
it may hurt, but you'll get it back at some point.
To be clear, like I don't regret buying it when I did. I think that what I learned was I don't have to target a specific book. I can just have the books that I know and the books that I like, and then just keep my eyes out for them and don't specifically target them. Just wait till the deal comes to you, because that's when you're going to feel the most fulfillment out of it. Like, wow, I got this at a really great price. And that just feels that's the hunt, right? Like that makes you feel better about the purchase. So no, I'm definitely not worried about the price of the 94, because if I did sell it, I'm probably just going to, put it in toward another book that's also at a depressed value. So
yeah,
it's all a wash in my opinion. Now I would be upset if I bought it specifically to flip. And that I did not. So I feel
and again, like
better about that.
I'm happy to say, and I think JP's in this boat, like, while everyone loves making a profit, like we're not in this hobby to just make a quick buck. Like we enjoy it and we share it and we love it. And so like, I don't really have and again, like we've said this before, like both of us, and I'm sure you're probably as well, like my retirement is not comic books.
Yeah.
Right. Like this is all fun money that, everything else is already taken care of.
Yes. Well, maybe not, but maybe it's not.
I should say, between us here,
but it is not part of like my plan.
Exactly. That's better way to
like bring down in my. I think it's cool. It's gravy, right? It's gravy on top of the other plan. This is fun stuff. I take it way too seriously for what it is.
We've talked about this before, though. I do feel though, like at the end of the day, everybody's got something that they put money into that brings them happiness. Could be comic books. Yeah. It could be wine. It could be skiing. It could be cars. It could be whatever. But like, everyone has an expense that like that is that necessary towards life? No. But does it bring me happiness and joy? Yes.
Yeah, totally. Shoes, clothes, things
sneakers,
like that.
Exactly. Great example. Yeah. So.
You're right, and that makes me feel better. So thank you, Rohan. Rohan is an enabler. I've learned this as well. Although he definitely has. Well, I won't speak about you in the third person. You're here. Like you definitely like are also a FOMO fighter. Like I think that you know like, okay, no, we can get that for cheaper.
Yeah, I'm all for. I will definitely like if you're like, hey, I'm thinking about this book. If it's a good deal, I am definitely going to be like, dude, do it. That's it. That's it right there. But like, if you like, I want this book, and then you find it, and it's like not like we could find it better than that. Like, I'll definitely say that for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think it's fun, and that's another fun thing about the community aspect. And speaking of the hunt, like with the community aspect, is like I can't afford to buy a book every week or every day or every month necessarily. But when you have other friends you're talking to and they're looking for this book, you're looking for that book, you get to hunt more, and that's enjoyable. Like, you know, it's fun. Like I've found a book for JP. He has also found a book for me. Like that's just as fun of a hunt, in my opinion, at least. Like I think I found it. I helped you find like your SS4 JP, and you helped me find ASM 129. Like it was awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a fulfillment there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's I do enjoy the antique and the eBay hunt that happens, but it's not as much a hunt. I enjoy eBay for selling stuff. I don't have very much luck on Instagram anywhere else, but like going out, like
it's on
I gotta get my fix. I love, like today I had to stop at antique stores on the way home from work. You know, I was about 2 hours south of my house. So I stopped the antique store and I found some that, you know, weird tales. So stuff like that happens, and you know, that's what makes it fun. But you know, certain books you're just not going to find in the wild. You got to get on eBay or you got to get on Instagram to find them. They're just, you know, they're not for sale on eBay, you know, easily or for a decent price. So
yeah, that's such a good point. Where are you buying your books now? Are you still just an eBayer, Dan?
I'm just an eBayer, and it comes.
But where do you live at?
Sorry,
roughly. Where do you live at? Roughly
Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
Which
so
again,
there.
I want to talk about because I just heard the other day that like
good.
Portland is a top 5 city in comic books consideration.
Yes,
so.
we have so many comic book shops, and there's some really good ones, and some that actually have like really good deals, like deals that, you know, they're selling.
But why do you go on eBay?
A couple reasons, convenience, and like I feel like I have developed, you know, like a strategy that, to purchasing that has been fruitful. I'll share it.
Oh yeah, let's hear the recipe.
I mean, well, one thing is you got to know what type of books you're going after, and you got to eliminate the fluff so that you're not scrolling through, you know, stuff that you're just not interested in. So definitely like filtering. So what I do is most of my purchases are via Buy It Now and its newest listings, and then I put in Xmen. I do Bronze Age, Silver Age, and sometimes Copper Age, depending. And then I also put a price, minimum price, so that I get rid of the stuff that's just like the issues I don't care about. So everything's got to be like at least $10 or something like that. So that way, and since I work from a computer, I can just like have a tab open, refresh every once in a while, see what's there, you know, and if something piques my interest, I can take a quick look. You can kind of tell, like, I don't even look at like the My Comic Book Shop posts, because I just know they're just going to be posting, you know,
it's not here, it's downstairs
or higher for the most part.
Well, it's not.
They're not having
so looking for the specific sellers and posts.
Yes.
Where, you know, where I think that
like someone's looking for giant size X-Men in Rohan's house. Where's the giant size X-Men, Rohan?
Yeah, it's under the table. I told you.
No, my son's looking for my iPad.
This is really important.
Yeah.
Well, this is really important.
Yeah.
No, it's all good.
Hold on one second.
So basically, like, that's just, I'm comfortable with that with that way of shopping.
Yeah. Do you go and just like visit the shops if there's so many?
I do. I visit. I have a shop near me, and I think that I've made kind of a mistake of not going to it enough to establish myself. But I've also got the vibe kind of like, this isn't really like a hangout. You know, you don't want to talk. Like, you're nice, but it's just like, yes. The answer is yes, and not like, hey, engaging. And so
I don't have an abundance of shops here, but the one that I really liked, I would just go just to like talk to the guy about. Yeah. It's just fun to talk to someone in the physical form, not, we obviously do this online and on the screen, which is great, but it's also just nice. And I don't know, I love being in a comic store, just like the books on the wall. It's great. And like, it was really unfortunate that he actually just closed down a couple weeks ago to go to Thailand and retire for a few years. And which is great. He's had his shop for 33 plus years or whatever it was. But yeah, like
I sale for you.
I mean, the thing is, and I've told JP this, like when he gets a good book, he prices it to move like that day. So I've had some great steal of that Tomb of Dracula 10.
Oh yeah, to 10.
That was at his store.
That's so sick. What was it, $75 or something?
40.
Crazy.
Yeah. But like when he also does sometimes gets these like, big books. I'm talking about like $5,000 books. He makes a couple phone calls to like some like clients he's had long term, and even those books will be gone in a day. Mm-hmm. But it's fun. Like I'd go in and he'd show me what he came in, and we would talk and blah 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 blah. And it was also fun because he was someone that, he's an older guy. He was completely disconnected from like MCU, social media influencers, all that kind of stuff, hot 10 lists. Like he doesn't pay attention to any of that. And so like, it's kind of refreshing to talk to someone that's as into this hobby as we are, but comes from that side of the equation. And he wasn't like a curmudgeon old man at that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I think that's what I moved recently, like just 2 years ago. I mean, I'm still in Portland, but just in my location. And the comic shop that's near me now, like I said, nice guy. But I mean, everything is priced, above fair market, not too much, but the kind that you look at and you're like, I can definitely get this cheaper. But they have some back issues that are, you can sometimes find a good one for $8 or something. But all in all, like, for example, here's the example that I have. Like, I picked up a few comics. I was like, ooh, this poster. Hey, like this total is $41. Would you sell this to me for 40? Like everything together for 40? And they're like, no, it's 41. And so that was just kind of like, okay, like, I don't know you enough. I get it. But at the same time, like that kind of felt shitty, like,
oh yeah, 100%.
So like, and maybe they felt shitty too, that I was trying to, take $1 off. And they don't, and I don't know.
Like when I know at the LCS where I became friends with the guy, like he would always do stuff like that. He's like, $25, $30.
Yeah. Like, and that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. And it's not like I'm trying to get like a crazy deal. And like I said, they're pricing them at fair market or maybe even a little higher. So, I'm just trying to
get in the fair market.
I don't know. Like, and another example is like another shop, that I used to go to a lot. They are so chill, super casual, old school, and you're right. They price things to move, everything is like every wall book you're tempted. And I don't even collect that stuff just cause it's like, wow, that's a great book at a great price. Mm-hmm.
But what do they buy books at? You know what I mean? So you got somebody who's going to price them aggressively. They're going to give you not a whole lot on trade or buying your collection.
100%. And actually I have a quick story about that. That was what got me into collecting. I did not mention that when I was an adult, after the Xmen movie came out, I went to this shop. It's Xmencomics. This is where like Qwerty Comics, another YouTuber, and he works there. But at the time it was just some guy working there. And I was looking through the Xmen, and another random guy comes in with a paper bag of comics. And he said, hey, I'm just trying to get whatever cash. And the Excalibur guy said, I don't know. Like we have all these like $20. And he had Secret Wars 8, Wolverine 1, and then actually like a big stack of the Xmen that I currently have. 129, 133, just like some of the John Byrne run. And he was like, oh man, $20. Like that's all you can do for me. He's like, sorry, man. I know it's not much, but we just have them. And then I was like, hey, well, I'm interested. And we both look at like the dealer there. And then we're like, should we do this? Is it okay for us to do this deal here? And he's like, yeah, yeah, you should probably not. Like, you should probably just go outside or whatever. Like, but I don't care. You know, I'm not like mad at you for doing it. So I did. And then the guy was like, and I was like, these are like, to me at that time, I was like, I never thought I would ever own one of these books, like the Wolverine 1 miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, never thought I would own that. And he was like, well, as long as you're a collector, just give me the $20 that he was going to offer, and you know, we'll be good. So that was like my first.
He gave it $20 for all that stuff.
$20 for the Secret Wars 8 that I graded at a 9.6.
Holy
crap! And I remember I even wrote down like on a little piece of paper what it was worth back then. I said $12, and at the time I had assumed, because of like old school grading styles, I was like, oh, this is a 7.5. And
wow.
and so I was like, yeah, it's a $12 book. That's awesome. You know, at the time I was like, great.
Yeah, I made 100 out of the 20 I spent, right? So you're at
I think, you know, when it comes to
endorphin rush, right, and got me like on collecting,
them buying collections. I think too, one thing we need to take into account, like when we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, and like, you know, if you watch Bry's comics, for instance, like he always talks about he pays like 60 to 70% of fair market value for your collection.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so that's like the highest I've heard. And you know, most people on Instagram, I want to feel, are like in the 50% range. The shop owners, though, I like the one I know, like he was honestly in like the 10 to 25%, I would say, range.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is they have leverage, because one, owning a shop, like when you talk to these guys, collections just walk in the door.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas like the guys that would deal online, they have to kind of go searching and hunting and, you know, find them. Yep. With that in mind, they can offer them cash on the spot. They don't need to package the books up. They don't need to ship them out. There's zero work involved.
Yeah.
And so many people are just like, and they don't need to drive anywhere else. Like shops aren't necessarily that close to each other, especially up here. Like, so it's like, this is money in my hand right now versus me doing extra work. And then if I sell to someone that does online, I have to figure out how to get them the books and all this stuff. So they have the leverage to do it. So it's like, I don't hate on them for doing, like, that's how they run their business. They've also got overhead of paying. And so it's like, it's the part of the game. It just is what it is. And, you know,
I don't necessarily, I agree with what you're saying. That's what that's the line they all give, but we all have our costs, right? I mean, we may have overhead, but I don't need to pay more for a book. Like I go into a shop, they have probably 4 different locations. They're at every show locally, and all their books are priced a little bit higher than normal. And they give you next to nothing on trade-in. I'm talking like you said, 10%.
Totally, 100%.
And I'm like, why do you want me to pay this? You're going to give me this for it, like even on trade. And they're nice about it. But then there's other shops that, you know, he has stuff at 2021 prices, and he's giving you 2023 for your trade-in. Like, you have the Eternals 1 for $400 ungraded, but you're going to give me $10 for Wolverine #1 on, you know, the Unlimited series. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. He's like,
no, totally.
He's like, I'm going to change that. I'm going to change that. I'm like, yeah. But I'll see when you change it. Yeah.
I also will say this too, though. I do think like this isn't like life necessity. So it's not like we're going to the grocery store and they're holding us hostage for this loaf of bread.
It's at
the end of the day,
for sure.
At the end of the day, it's a comic book, and if they own it, they have the right to sell it at whatever price that they want it. You don't have to buy any book you don't want or doesn't have the price. And, you know, similar with trade or whatnot. I think at the end of the day, it's like if they're a dealer, they are going to have to make deals to make money and have a living. Sometimes I don't understand their strategy, but at the end of the day, like, they're free to sell. Again, I'm not going to get upset. Like, I do think it's like ridiculous, but like at the end of the day, it's a comic book, and it's like, it's not like I need it in my life to survive. And so it's like, if they want to be a dick, if they want to sell for 10x over market or whatever, which I have seen, like, that's their right. And my guess is they're not going to sell it at that price, and that's their loss if that's what they do for income. And so, you know, it is what it is.
Well, then like you said, it's all about the community and making friends. And I find that sometimes when, like you said, that guy that, Dan, we were talking about, like, he wasn't going to give you, you know,
buck off.
Price. Yeah. Like, you're not going to go back there.
Totally.
That's the thing. It's like, it's local. So you're right. I'm not encouraged to go there. I would totally go there every lunch break if I felt welcomed. And it feels like I'm never going to establish a relationship. And not to mention, like, their stuff's overpriced generally. And I would be fine with that if I knew that they would cut a deal on a stack of books. But I don't.
If you have a bunch of dollar books, you might find something in there for your run you need, or you might have to buy a wall book for a little bit more, but you'll find one because you got a place to go.
Yeah, a place to go, and yeah, it doesn't really feel like I have a spot to go to right now.
Yeah, no, I'm in that same, and that's the thing too, is like there are, I think, 8 comic book shops in this area, we'll just say. Of those 8, there's only 3, one of them now is the one that just closed, that have the inventory I want. Like, I don't really care about new books or modern books. Like, I want the older stuff that we grew up on and the vintage stuff that's even older. So there was the 3. Now there's down to 2. The other 2 are like, have no concept of what the fair market is of these comics. It's just like, it's not even worth my even though they're like nice people and I've enjoyed talking to them, but like, you still want the like allure of like, I could find a great deal here today on something I really want. That's never going to happen there. So it's like, I don't even bother going to, so now I don't have a shop to go to.
And it's not like they don't know the prices, as in like they're overcharging for everything. Because sometimes like you'll see they overcharge for some things, but sometimes they undercharge for another thing. Like today we saw the guy on eBay who just listed all their books at $25, not realizing, well, you also listed that key at $25. That's, that's fun to find that. And JP,
I have the one shop near me, I had kind of a run-in with this guy trying to trade some books, and I kind of like don't go back to him. And then my son went over last Christmas and bought a stack of Spectacular Spider-Man books. There was 8 of them. He paid $3 a book for a lot of these were dollar books. And I was pissed that this guy even sold. And my kid's 18, 17 at the time. So what I did was now I'm going to collect all 100, the first 100 Spectacular Spider-Man. I've been going around. I'm done with it now, which will be our next little video drop. But it pissed me off that he did that. So I'm looking for another place to go, and I found this GameStop place that had boxes everywhere of comics. They have CDs, DVDs, figures from gaming stuff.
It's like a game exchange kind of a thing. Used in shit
everywhere. But there's boxes on top of boxes.
Yeah.
And I finally got to know the guy, and we became friendly. But when he gave me grief for trying to get a hold of him. I came in at lunchtime, or I was in the area for a meeting. So I stopped in. I'm like, hey, is so-and-so here? Like, no, he's not here. I said, well, he's gonna give me a deal on these couple books. And they're like, well, he's busy. I'm like, what do you think I do? I mean, I'm busy too. Like, you have a shop, but you have no idea what I do. Like, I'm busy too. My time's worth something. So I dealt with that, and then we finally became friendly. And he has boxes everywhere, just junk. Like, he had a comic book store, and then it became like all the extra boxes are in his game store now. So I go through them and I find some stuff and I bring them to him, and he's like, he looks them up, but he's been giving me a deal. Well, he wasn't there recently, and his daughter or his ex-wife, he still works with his ex-wife. It's weird. Fucking screwed me over on the price. I spent an hour finding shit, and I was like, gave her the stack, and she's like, let me look them up.
Oh, that's the worst.
Like 25 minutes to look them up. I'm like, I got to go. Usually Ernie gives me a deal, and she's like, well, he's not here. And she was like, I'm not paying you that price. Like, you're not going to go on eBay, recent sold, and charge me $35 for that thing I just found sitting in the back here. That's been here for 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not coming back again. I'm done. After that experience, like yours.
I haven't seen it in person yet, but like I've seen more recently, most recently being Chris from Cheddar Comics, who we had on recently, of that situation where you go in and there's a sign that says, we reserve the right to look up any book you bring up, or, books will be priced. Books will be priced when you bring them up. Like, that to me is like, I would absolutely instantly be out. Like, that is Bush League. Like, that's I
agree that it makes me nervous when I see that. However, I've also seen certain situations where they're just like one of those chaotic type people, and they may end up just giving you an amazing deal. There is, for example, I don't remember the name of the shop, but they were at Rose City Comic Con, and they're pretty much at a lot of these
Cons
shows, comic shows. Yeah. Dave from West Coast Dave Venger, he had picked up a stack. Nothing was priced. He just started taking out a bunch of books, stacking them up. Hey, what could you do on this? And then he's like, this much. And, without looking it up, right? Just kind of like, I don't know, this much. And it's a great deal. So there are deals to be had in those situations, but I'm always nervous because I'm spending my time.
I do think those type of dealers are identifiable, but like when you see that sign that says like we reserve the right, or books will be priced, upon research at, like, you just like know, like they're going on eBay looking at the highest ones out there, and then they're just, it's like, no, man, if these books are out for sale, you should have priced them. Obviously you got them at a cost at some point. You priced them then to make money that you need. And like, sure, if you stay up to date and you're actively repricing things, that's fair game too. But like, don't just wait for me to go in there, find what the hot books are, and then you price them. Like, that's,
you just did their job by
exactly. That's the point.
Books.
Like, exactly. You're exactly right. You did their work. Like, they're lazy. Like, by all means, like, pay attention to the trends. Like, reprice. Absolutely, you have every right to reprice your book, but like, don't have us do the work for you and then be like, well, now I get to take advantage. Like, that's BS.
Yeah, don't charge me top dollar. You know what I mean? At least give me a deal if I'm the one that's going to find it for you, right? Yeah. But that happened a couple times, and then you learn. And I saw there's a YouTuber called Why Not Comics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen him before, but he had a recent run-in where he went and grabbed a stack that he thought was $1, and the guy was like, no, this is $50. Like,
right.
And he had to put up the sign after the guy got there, and they dealt with this. He put up a sign right above the comics that said, I reserve the right. Like, well, I'm not coming back then. And you run out of places to go, and you start in your area. There's probably the same stores. Obviously, they're not going anywhere. They're brick.
Well, actually, I disagree with that. I think the more things like that happen and people say they're not going, they're like, now, like, there's a full-on market that is not in brick and mortar. And like, I do think as time goes on, like, maybe this is kind of sad, but like, I think there's going to be shops that do close because of
right. And if you stop going, that's what I mean. And that'll have the effect, but it won't be like where the guy was like, you know what? I'm sorry, Dan, I'm sorry. Come back. I'll give you that $1 off the book and $1 off the next book so that you keep coming in here. Yeah. Right. Realizing what their audience is, their customers are, but it takes that, what do you call the quick effect of your aggravation is not going to be felt for a long time. And, you start running into dealers at shows that are dickheads, and you're like, you're in a radius. You're not going to get new dealers unless I fly to Emerald City Comic Con to see some new dealers there. So, you kind of lessen your pool because we're all trying to get it for the cheapest dollar and sell for the highest. Right. So you run into some friction there sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. It's an interesting thing. Like the whole, like, we're all just buying and selling from each other. Like, we all kind of like tell this story, to make it feel okay.
If the rules were the same, when I collected baseball cards in the 90s, I knew whatever they were going to offer me, it was going to be 50% of what Beckett said. So I knew I was getting 50%. So if I spent less than that, I was okay with it. Then as things got worse and worse, it became 25% of Beckett's price. So at least you know that. But you could walk in and spend an hour at that store looking for stuff, come up with a stack of dollar books, and he goes, $100. And you're like, what are you talking about? These are all in the dollar bin. Oh, I reserve the right.
Yeah.
Right.
Can you knock off $5?
How much are you willing to pay?
Yeah, what are you going to give me? Knock $5 off. Nope, can't knock $5 off. I need that $5.
Yeah. Anyways, we've got a little bit off topic of what we originally.
Oh, come on now,
no, it's all great. I love discussing this stuff, but I do want to get back a little bit back to Dan's collecting and what he's finding his evolutionary or his evolved.
Well, I thought you were going to tell him what he needs to collect now.
Yeah, I need a little more information before I can make a consultation here.
Oh.
Well, I mean,
charge by the hour for this
one. Yes. And we're bleeding into the next one. So now it's going to be the next hour's paid. Like right now it's tough without a very measurable goal, because I end up just buying whatever I think is a good price. And I can try to stick to a real rule where I think, okay, well, I'll only buy comics that I know I could sell for, twice, whatever the number is, right? Like I could sell them for twice as much, or I'm getting them for, 25% off, whatever.
But let me stop you there. If you can double it, you're doubling it for a reason. What's that book you want?
Exactly. I don't know. That's why I have a box of comics that I'm like, I am okay to say goodbye to these. And I'll always tell myself like, oh man, that's a great price. Like I'm going to buy it. I already have 2 copies, but I'll get a 3rd one and I can sell it. And I've learned that you better sell that shit like right away, because it is just going to sit in my box and I'm going to forget it's even there, So it is best, I feel like, if that's the plan, I should just not buy another one until I sell that one.
And you're going to sell on eBay?
That's what I've been doing. Yeah. And you're right. Like, I know that everybody hates eBay. They charge 15%.
Yeah, but let me ask you a question. You got to pay for it. You got to pay for, if you go to a show, you got to pay for the table, your time sitting there. If you have a store, you got to pay rent and all that stuff. So there's still costs.
There are. And for me, this is convenience.
Yep.
I know how to work the app now. At the beginning when I was doing it and I didn't understand how to ship things, just like how much it costs to ship things. Before I could understand that, it was a real big challenge and a huge learning curve. But now that I understand, exactly how much to charge, how to take a picture, how to ship, how to communicate with the buyer, like it's just natural now to me to do that. And I could do it on Instagram, but Instagram's weird to me to sell on, because I've done it and I've only sold to dealers. They're the ones who were there to claim.
Oh, you did a claim sale?
Well,
how do you know they were dealers?
I didn't do a claim sale. And sorry, JP, what was your question?
How did you know they were dealers?
Because I looked at their profile.
Okay.
So I didn't do a claim sale. I did like a faux claim sale. Like, here's a video of me. Look at these books that I don't care about. Buy them. Here's a sticker on it. And I priced them as like, I would sell this to my friend for this price, right? Like they're already really, I thought, way
good
below
prices.
market value. And one guy's like, well, how much would you take them for all of them? Or would you take this price for all of them? Which was maybe 20% off of the total price of all of them. And I thought, yeah, it would be like a real hassle for me to like package a $15 book. And this one, there's like 7 or like maybe 12 different, bundles or comics here. It would be easier for me to just sell them. So I sold them all. I don't regret that. It was an experience, and he probably, got a really good deal off me. But yeah, like I just looked up and then, it hurt me a little bit when I saw, 5 days later, my book for sale for twice as much. I was kind of wish I didn't see that. But I know that that's what he was going to do, and that's fine. Like, it's fine. Why do I have a problem with that? Like, it just hurts me a little. I don't know why.
We've all owned cars before. I don't know if you ever sold a car to someone besides a dealer.
I never have.
I had a Jeep Wrangler that I sold to friends of mine, and I have to see the Jeep and them driving the Jeep with the top down every so often, and it aggravates me sometimes. Even though I was fine not driving anymore, but I have to see it. So had you sold to some dealer across California, it was only going to go to shows, it wouldn't probably have mattered. But then you had to see it displayed for sale. Who knows if he got double for it, but that's probably why it hurt. I totally understand that.
I think the way you got to look at it, though, is
it's like an ex-girlfriend.
In this situation, right? Like, you're theoretically selling whatever these books are to fund another book that is a goal of yours, right? Let's just say, in this case, let's just use Giant Size X-Men 1.
Yeah.
So, you sell them at a friendly price, we'll say. At the end of the day, in my opinion, the way you got to look at it, I think, is if doing the friendly prices still helped you achieve the goal you wanted, the outcome was still the same, you usually need to be just be okay with it. Whatever happens.
This is like Dr. Phil.
But that's because, Rohan, you have a measurable and specific goal in your mind. Like, we don't pass up going to a restaurant tonight just to save money. Like, well, we'll save money. No, it's like you pass up going to a restaurant because I'm going to use that money toward a trip that I'm going to take, or I'm going to use that. Like, it's easier to save money, or it's easier to sell comic books when you know I'm going to turn that money into this thing that I really, really want. But when I don't have that goal in mind,
keep buying. Yep.
I just keep buying because I think that's a good deal. And, and I'm not a motivated seller. I don't want to take them out of the bags and take the pictures and grade them and comp them and then write the description. And it's like I said earlier, I'm better at that now, but it still is a hassle.
Yeah.
And the reason, again, why I don't like to sell on Instagram wasn't just because of this, somebody else is just going to buy it and sell it for something else. There's a lot of like criticism I'm seeing on Instagram and YouTube. And I'm like so afraid of being a target. Like, I'll put my face on Instagram unlike a lot of other people do, but I don't like the idea of selling to someone like Rohan. Like I sold you some books. I was like kind of terrified. Like, did I charge too much? Like, did I package them well? Like, I'm really nervous,
I kind of have, I'll be honest with you. Like when I see a sales post, I don't, so like if you post a cool book, I give it a like. If I see a sales post, even if for someone I know, I won't like it because I kind of the same way. Like I don't want that someone seeing that and being like, well, you liked it, so I thought it was a good price, or it's like, since I'm not involved with the sale, I don't want to do with anything involved with it. And similarly speaking too, I also think like if I see a book, like I was telling you guys this on the text thread, I saw a Ultimate Fallout 4 today, 9.8, and the guy listed it for $1,700.
Yep.
And literally like 4 posts up, there was another Ultimate Fallout 4, 9.8. And I had also seen one yesterday. Both were 9.8s, and they were both $1,400. So in my head, I'm like, this guy does not know where this market is right now. And I laugh about it with you guys offline, but I would not, it's not my business to go on his like post and be like, bro, you're $300 over market. And like, it's just not my, it's just not my business.
People will post, hey man, like that's what's, what is it? Is it, Stan Lee signed or whatever? Or, I remember there's this other like comic buyer and seller chat that I'm in Instagram. And I kind of like just stopped paying attention there because it would just be like, these dealers are doing their thing, posting stuff. And whenever I would finally post something, like I would say like, okay, well, does anybody want to buy this lot for this price? I think it's a good price. And then they might be like, or actually this is what happened. They said, that's too much. And I go, okay, like, yeep, sorry. Like I guess like my feelings are hurt or something, right? It's different on eBay because you're faceless. Like somebody can send you a message, but it's not like a text that people are reading and like, right. I'm being clowned.
And adding to the comments and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I'm more than happy to adjust my price because I do want to sell at under fair market. And maybe I did make a mistake and overcharge, but then again, that could just be somebody else's opinion. Like I'm only like, that's too much for that guy because he only wants to buy books 50% off of fair market. So it's just like, and then also like, I like to meet guys like you, and this is a lot more fun than setting up my IG page for selling.
Yeah. Agreed.
And also it gets kind of confusing. Like, am I selling? Am I collecting? If I just have one page for both, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just that maybe like I'm just like too sensitive to the criticism. So I just stick to my own personal stories and, I don't know. It's just,
I think that's fair. Yeah. I totally get that.
I do a lot of eBay sales. I don't have very much luck on Facebook with trades like Rohan. You've had, good luck with that. I don't really trust Facebook, but I understand those groups are there for a reason. I just usually see people selling shitty books on Facebook Marketplace, which is different than the groups you're talking about. But Instagram sales have been like nothing. And I don't,
because like they just feel like overpriced or somebody.
I don't know when he sells on Instagram.
When I sell I don't really try to sell often, but I did a little experiment recently and put a bunch of books up for sale, and I didn't get really a whole lot of interest back, and I didn't really, and no input either. Like those are too high priced. What are you thinking? Yeah. Like
I think it's a function too, though. Like Dan and I were talking about before you got on. Like you you may have a large follower base, but that audience there is not there because they follow you because you sell, right? So when you had a sales post, like people may just like scroll on by it, right? Being like, oh, that's just a book JP show. Whereas like if you have a selling page and you're known as a seller and you have a following there, you've built the audience that knows that I'm going to go to that page to look for books that I want. And so I think it's that, and that's why I think like, I do think it's smart if you do want to sell that you may have a sell, that doesn't mean like if you have a sales page, you can't every once in a while be like, I was able to get this for my PC, no big deal. But like if you are a seller, you have an Instagram page, probably the most of your posts should just be sales related because you want to build that audience towards that. And you can have a separate page for your personal, for example.
But it takes a lot of work to get those followers. And actually my intention originally of starting an Instagram page a couple of years ago was to sell. My plan was I'm going to get an Xmen 94 and a giant size Xmen. I'm going to establish a sales page, but first you got to have that trust and get followers. So I was like, okay, I'll have me with a book. It's me. I'm not a faceless thing. And then that just became fun and engaging in itself. And that's just kind of the evolution of my page was just like, well, I don't think I really want to sell on this. And then I'm having so much fun, like chatting with you guys in the chat group, or just getting advice from all you guys that it's still become very fruitful for me to have that.
And I would think that even though with what you post, let's say, so even if you're not selling, if you post stuff that people like, someone might say, hey, is that for sale?
Yeah, I've had that. I've definitely
I've had a few of those, but not like that often. I think like,
it's not often.
But some of the stuff you post are like, you don't see that stuff, or it's, Ghost Rider, Marvel Spotlight, someone might have interest in it. I just picked it up, or you just picked it up, but who knows? Hey, would you want to get rid of that JP or Rohan? Hey, that Silver Surfer card. I get the friends on IG, but the sales part of it just hasn't, that's the easy. There's ways to sell. You can sit at like I said, have a store, go to a show and have a table. You can have like I said, a store. You can sell on IG. You can do whatnot. You can do eBay. They all have their perks and their downsides. And, you got to find which one works for you. And then like your collection you evolve, and now you're doing shows, or you got a store, or you got, like you said, Dan, you always want to have a store. Maybe, someday.
I definitely do not want a comic store. I've learned from every comic store owner says not open a comic store.
Well, you saw in Big Bang, those guys were cool, man.
Oh, that was
every
fun.
week.
That was fun. But JP, you're right. Like you have to be intentional about, if you're planning to sell, you have to be intentional. You have to take the actions to sell the books. I have also recognized when I did sell, actually, I think I've only sold with the intention to sell one time. And then I have made trades and sales just naturally. It just comes, like you mentioned, that somebody will ask if you got this or that. Rohan, that's how you bought from me, right? I wasn't posting anything. You were just like, do you have these books? And I just happened to have them.
Yeah. And, yeah. I also think too, the other thing too, we need to acknowledge too, when it comes to the sellers, like I often find this in a lot of different areas, not just comic books, but like when it's something that is, it's not a business that's like selling food or selling like necessary services. People are like, oh, that's just a hobby thing. Like they don't have the right to make a lot of money doing that. For example, like I owned a CrossFit gym, and, sometimes you get these comments from people like, because, CrossFit is not a big, like, it's not necessarily, like I shouldn't have the right to make good money running that business. Right. So similar with comic books, it's like, we all have to acknowledge, like, yeah, this is a fun hobby and this is a love that we all have. And the dealers that are selling them probably also have a love of comic books. But to sell, it takes a lot of work, right? Like, for example, I was talking to Dave of West Coast Avengers just briefly the other day, because we did a show with last Wednesday, and Dave starts his Wednesday sale almost the exact same time we start recording here on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
We got done. Dave was still going.
Yeah.
I just like popped on just to check out what he was having. I said hi. went back to doing my own thing.
And we'll do that again tonight.
Right. And then at 10:30, when I went to bed, I was like, oh, let me just, and I look, Dave is still going. I cruise on. He's still putting up books, selling books. I ended up talking to him the next day. I was like, dude, you started at what, 5:30 and you went to like 10:30. You were still going. And I went to bed. He's like, yeah, it was like just over 5 hours. Like, that's probably a couple hundred books he sold. He's got to then invoice, package, ship. Like, it's work. Like, it absolutely is work. And we do need to acknowledge, just because we love it and it's fun, like, these guys still are busting their butt to do this stuff. So, like, you know, I don't want to, you know, that I just don't want that to be, you know, us be blind to that.
Do you know if Dave has a day job?
No,
he's a full-time dealer. That's
okay. So that is his thing. Cause I was like, you can tell he really loves it. And I feel like, I don't think I could do what I love. I've always heard that, like, that expression, like, you should just do what you love. Like, that's going to be so fulfilling. But anytime I do every job I've had, I'm like, I'm interested in this. You know, I worked at I was at a dispensary for a couple of years, and after a while I was like, I can't stand this, you know, anymore. And but at the time I was like, this is a dream job. And it's just like, so much can change. It can get so you know, unromanticized real quick when you see how the sausage is made.
100%. I mean, like, and you can tell too, Dave's got to love, because he puts out a lot of other content on his channel that is not sales related. Like, it's just comic book related. But yeah, like when we had him on, he talked like, he's like, when he gets up, he's got this process of like, he hits offer up, he hits Facebook Marketplace, like all these places that he finds, because he's got to source his inventory. He doesn't have a store. And like, yeah, it's an all day thing. Now he obviously enjoys it and he loves it, and it makes it not seem like a job to him. So he's able to do it, and that's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know how he does it, but yeah, if you can do that, more power to you for sure.
Yeah.
It would be nice to be able to unload stuff quickly that you just found and want to flip. That's probably the biggest issue. And if probably Dave wrangles with that daily, trying to get rid of old inventory for new inventory, you know, keep churning the books out. So I, like you, will find 3 of one book, knowing I can probably unload one of them, and then I don't unload it because the last eBay sale seemed reasonable, but then mine sits there. I'm like, what the hell is this still sitting there for? You know?
Yeah.
eBay too, though, is very tricky, because like even with eBay, you have to build an audience. Like, you can see like some sellers on eBay have 4,000 5-star reviews, and then you'll see some guys selling on eBay have 32 reviews, right? So like, people know and follow and follow sellers on eBay just the same as they do on Instagram. It's like, there's still a component of audience building that, you know, takes work to build. And, you know,
you're right about that. Like it's that there are a lot of buyers who will look at like, well, I only buy from people that have 1,000 something stars and like 100%. The percentage is important for me, but the amount of stars I found, actually, if you're a comic seller, like if you sell comics on eBay, I probably don't want to buy it, because you know exactly, and you've been doing this for a long time, you know exactly how much.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
You're going to get top dollar. I'm going to get the best deals from the people who have 30 reviews, you know, or like you're selling clothing and garage sale stuff, and you found some comic books and you're selling those. That's where you're going to get the best deals. And yes, there's an element of trust, you know, but you're protected as an eBay buyer. In 30 days, you can get your money back pretty much regardless of any, you know, even if you were like just to have the remorse or whatever, you could do it. I have a little moral feeling about that. I wouldn't, you know, do a refund just because I'm like, I wish I didn't buy this.
Yeah. But and also too, like, if you don't know what you're doing, like, you could set up an auction that turns out it ends, you know, at 3 a.m. on a Thursday, and it's like, well, that's not going to help you get the best top dollar and things like that. So it's like there's a lot of niches you got to understand to do it.
Let me ask Dan 2 questions. One, do you ship your items media mail?
No. I also worked in a warehouse. We did that with like CDs and vinyl, surprisingly, but I have learned if you package anything well, you can do it. But I do not. I always do priority, just because I know that I can fit anything into one of those legal
Gemini mailers.
Well, the way that I think it was the way that I send to you. I do bigger books in a Gemini mailer, but I never have bought a Gemini like mailer.
Oh no, I reuse them. I save all the ones
I reuse them for books that are like $50 or more, but mostly I'll sell like lots because most of the books I'm selling are like $5 books or less. So if it's, a $20 book or less, I tend to do them the same way that I sent to you, but I'll make my own box out of 2 pieces of cardboard, put those both in 2 bubble wrap, like a bubble wrap mailer, another bubble wrap mailer, and then into the legal envelope. And people have always been really happy. And I would be stoked if that's how I got it too. Just you tape it to the cardboard piece. You have a longer cardboard piece. You cut that cardboard piece in half, like with a tiny blade, so that you can fold it over. And so it's like a little house. There's open sides on the side, but because there's that extra space, it's taped down. It's in 2 bubble wrapped mailers, and you use that as extra packaging. So that's pretty much the only way that I ship, because shipping is always under $10, and you can fit 10 books bagged and boarded.
For priority mails under $10.
Yeah, with eBay, it's actually $7.90 if you do it through eBay. Or it's just under $10. I think it was like $9 and some change to fit into the legal envelope, whatever it's called.
The priority mail envelope, the bubble.
Yeah,
the bubble
but it's like a legal envelope. So those are a little bit larger than like a
8
padded
by 14.
envelope. Yes, and I use the padded envelopes as additional packaging.
Okay, you can get those free from eBay, or not from eBay, from U.S. Postal. They'll send you to
right.
You, right?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to do that, right? They don't want you to. They want you to use those specifically for shipping in that package. I'm cheap, so
well, I have shipped stuff medium mail most of the time is medium mail, and I package my stuff pretty good. And I was driving to a garage sale flea market out of town. I'm about an hour south. And I stopped at the post office because mine didn't open until 9. I have like 3 of them around me. They all open at different times. They're all the same federal service. What the hell? Why are we all different times? But anyway, so I had to get to the one at 9 o'clock was in a different town. I gave her 3 packages. She opened up all of them because they were medium mail to see what was in there. And because they're medium mail, they can open them up. And so then she sent them all priority mail because I use those envelopes as packaging, those priority mail envelopes they send you for free. I wrapped them all up in that. So then she sent everything out priority mail. It cost me $40 more.
Yep.
And I got a hold of the postmaster. He was able to refund one of the fees, but I already had refunded it to the guy on eBay. So I lost $40 on the whole deal. Luckily, I think I made $5 when it was all said and done, all 3 of them. But I was so pissed. I would have gone postal on that girl had I been in the town. No fucking joke.
That's great.
Right
we
now.
talked about this last week. JP's gonna go lose it on some postal worker one of these days.
But I didn't. I knew they could do that, but that was the chance I took. But I mean, she went full bore into it. I was like, who the hell do you think?
Yeah, like what kind of vendetta do you have on that? And that's exactly it. Like I've been burned with that early on when I started selling. I would put things in just like different types of packaging to try to figure out what works. And I would be told like, no, you can't send this. It's like, it doesn't fit through this hole or whatever. There's like all these types of rules that you need to follow. And this is what works best for me now. I've learned that just use that. I know exactly that it'll work. But as far as media goes, I'm not mad when somebody ships me media as long as they know how to package it correctly.
Exactly. Right? I could care less as long as it comes protected and safe.
Yeah.
However it gets.
I had somebody.
I would say, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Said.
I was going to say that I am nervous though. If I were to buy like a very high grade book, if it's over $20 and it's a really high grade, and I'm thinking like, okay, this is a 9896 situation, I would be nervous, media mail, regardless of how it was packaged. That said, like, if it is packaged well, it should still retain that high grade. That's the only kind of exception where I feel a little nervous, even if it's packaged well, if it's that high grade style.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I've seen them though take the same priority mail package. I'll send like a graded book or something out. They'll throw it in the bin, take the media mail one and throw it in the same bin.
Yeah, when they do that, I'm always like, oh.
I've gotten to know the post women that work that I see at the 2 stores I'm at.
Yeah.
And they're super nice. So they wouldn't open. I don't think they would screw me over. So I've had good luck with them because they help me out. They tell me,
at least not in front of you. They wouldn't.
Right. Yeah. And nothing, so far it's just that woman that was about an hour south of me, which I'm going to get her one of these days, but hopefully that's not recorded.
She's on a list. She's on a list.
The Adam Sandler list.
She's got to come and do it.
Man, I'm glad I called that guy.
Yeah.
But I had someone ship me. It's back here. It was Amazing Spider-Man. I think $2.99 or $2.98. It got sent to me in a Little Caesars pizza box.
I loved it too because JP showed it. It had like the grease stains.
I think I've heard this story. Yes, I heard this story.
And it was fine, but I was like,
yeah.
How do I review this guy? So I wrote package. It came shipped in a pizza box. That's all I put on there for the review. But I didn't give him a negative review. I just said, hey, it came in a pizza box, so be prepared. But it came just fine. So it is a. I used to get nervous, then I wasn't, and then after the last issue, now I'm like a little more cautious of what I ship out. So I do have a lot of people though that if I do put something up for auction, which I don't do it very often, I'll have people that will win the auction and not pay me within 24 hours, and I'll message them and go, "Are you going to pay?" Like in a nice way, I'll ask them that. Oh yeah, give me by the end of the week.
JP says, "Are you going to pay or do you want to be on my list?"
Yeah,
But I'm like, you just bought an item for $50 and you're going to make me wait till your payday? Like, then don't buy it.
Yeah,
I don't understand how people...
I think that honestly is happening more and more now because on Instagram now you'll see almost every sales post says payment due within 24 hours, payment due within 48 hours. Because that must be happening more and more often.
And I see so many people like calling out other buyers, like this person doesn't pay or this person, doesn't ship or, like I actually do appreciate like the holding people accountable. But it feels, and I understand like communication is the big thing. Like it can be okay to wait. Like but that's the thing. If you claim something, if you whatever, like in my opinion, you should have the money to pay for that. If you're not, that should be something that should have been arranged ahead of time.
Don't go silent on eBay for like 24 hours when you bought, like you just put in the last bid, right?
I see that
you didn't buy it now, but you just put the last bid in, you won it, so you knew you were going to have to owe the money. So
yeah,
I similarly feel the same way to go on the opposite when it's like when you do make a purchase and they take like a week and a half to like ship it. It's like, come on, man, like what is going on here? Like
I paid right away. You should split this thing out. It is annoying. I wonder, but I was going to ask you that, is that when people buy on an auction, do you think that if they don't pay you right away that they are waiting on another auction to see if they won the other item at a price?
It depends on who the buyer is, right?
Yeah.
I think
I'm wondering about that because this guy's sitting in the week. Yeah.
Which is another thing of weirdness to me, like because like you're mixing business and pleasure, like that's just, I don't know.
I think on your eBay page you should probably just put like payment due within 48 hours, otherwise your order will be canceled. I
usually communicate like this. The last guy, I said, hey, you have till 8 o'clock Tuesday night, because if you don't pay by then, I'm going to put on the auction again. So it's a 5-day ends Sunday night. It's usually how it would supposed to work better. And I got pissed because I didn't hear nothing back from him. So 8 o'clock in the morning, I canceled it. He's like, wait, you said I had till 9 o'clock. I'm like, why didn't you say something?
I have the money.
I'm like, you didn't say a damn word. I sent you like 3 messages. You didn't say a damn word. So I was like, fuck you. I'm going to cancel it.
Yeah, well, do you want it still?
Because we can just you're on the list.
Like,
and I put him on. I said, listen, I'm going to put on to buy it now at this price that you agreed on. You can buy it now. And I don't think he even did. Like I was like, screw you then,
Yeah,
so,
I agree. Yeah.
Exactly. It's just
It's like going to the stores we talked about. The guy won't give you $1 off. You got the weird eBay sellers. You got the Rohans out there. You got all kind of people to deal with,
Oh, speaking of weird eBay sellers, like that was a recent purchase that I had done recently. Like I'll admit, like I was kind of a weird buyer because I bought a lot. Then I asked afterwards because they took like just like terrible pictures. I was like, can you, before you send that, could you like take a picture or like just tell me, like, is there any like big stains or anything? And they're just like, or like, does it smell like mildew or mold or anything? That's really important to me. And they're like, oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, I think that's fair though to a point, because like on a claim on Instagram, for example, like sometimes, man, you got to be fast. If it's like the right book comes up for the price you've been looking for, you got to jump, because there's a high chance it goes. And like you know, so it's like, yeah, I totally get it. Like if you claim and they're like, hey, can you just send me a couple pictures real quick just to like verify? Like I think that's totally.
I appreciate the validation, because I have always been like concerned, like, is that like not a cool move? But there's no way for me to get all the information. I feel like if it's anyway. So I asked him, and then he's like, oh, this is all personal collection stuff. I never deal with things like that, incomplete books or things with mold. So no worries right here. I'm like, awesome. Thank you. I'll take it. And then I'm looking later to like do comps. Like, I wonder how much like something low grade like that costs. I saw the exact same lot that I had purchased. I'm guessing, bought it because it's the exact same books last week, sold for, half the price that I paid, which,
timing is everything.
That's fine. Because it was still what I felt was a good price. So I'm fine with that. And, but it's like, okay, wait, like the guy was saying that it was like his personal collection. Why would he even say it was his personal collection? And then later he's like, hey, as I was packaging these books up, by the way, I'm selling these for a friend. I found a stain on the back or whatever. And I go, what? Like, you're selling it for, I didn't even ask. Like it's fine that there's a stain. I get it. It's a low grade lot, but like, why tell me, you don't need to tell me it's your personal collection. You don't need to tell me that you're doing it for a friend. This is weird now.
Yeah.
And then I said,
caught you in a lie, and I don't like it.
Just again, whatever it is, just be straight about it.
Yeah. I don't care that you bought it for half.
I don't care that you got it for half off. I don't care that you found it at a book, like just, I don't even know what you need to know where you bought it. Just consistent and straight and honest. That's all we ask.
Yeah. So that was enough for me to say, like, you know what? Just cancel. Like, just cancel this. Like, could you do that if it's not too much trouble? And they're like, and then right after I sent that message, I got the shipping number. And then the next day he goes, oh man, like I missed your message. I was too late. I shipped it. Now you got to send them back, and then I have to repost them, and I'm just thinking, like, dude, like, like whatever. It just rubbed me the wrong way. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
I feel you on that.
Do you give him shit for that on IG then?
No. So I mean, what am I gonna? No, I'm not gonna do that. But what I would do,
I'll put him on my list for you.
I mean, it's an eBay seller, right? So it's an eBay seller. Yeah. So, what am I going to do? I don't know. I'm going to look at them when they get here and just make a decision then. But like, he thinks that I'm going to send him back. Maybe I have to pay for the shipping. So, we'll figure it out. But it's only like $60 or something. So, but the reason I bought it, that was a mistake in the first place, because why am I buying low grade lots of books that I already have? Like, that's not my goal. Yeah. Like, I'm doing it because I think, I can sell these for more. All
right. So let's do this. So we're actually hitting now an hour 45. So we actually do got to kind of end this.
Nope. New can of worms. We're staying.
I got to put these kids down to bed. But anyways,
you got to find that iPad.
My consultation here is, Dan, I do think like you should take a pause on picking up anything. And just spend some time and think about, like, what is my dream PC? What do I want? What is going to make me happiest? And make at least some thoughts as to what you do want to collect. And then once you have that in mind, then start. But until you do that, I wouldn't just buy anything, personally, is how I would.
That definitely is like the advice I know that I need to do. But Rohan, what about all those sweet deals that are passing me by while I'm not on?
There's always
going to be a whole run of Sleepwalker.
See, I would go for it. The price is right.
Here's the thing about a good deal, Dan. There'll always be another one.
Yeah, you're right. Because the books that I like the most are super common. The more I'm learning about,
I get even beyond that. Like, I mean, if you let's just like Rohan, I want to buy Batman 1. Like, honestly, if you've got the money for it, like, we can find Batman 1. Like, there's always going to be another one. Like,
you're right.
It just is what it is. Like, that's the cool thing. Like, there's there's strategy involved. There's, obviously money involved. Like we, at the end of the day, like if we were billionaires, we could buy anything we wanted because there's always one available. So don't feel bad about missing a deal. Like I always like, oh, I missed it. Dang it. There'll be another one
today. Yeah. Today that happened, right?
Yeah.
Well, that was the Marvel Spotlight I got. I was happy with the grade, and then Mike found one like grade and a half lower for the price I would have paid the same for it. It didn't look. I didn't care what grade, as long as it looked good. 2.5, 4.5. Well, I didn't care. I was like, shit, I would have saved $200 and got that one, but too late now.
Yeah,
but shit happens.
That's an interesting point too. Like, what grade do we really want? Because there's so many like variables like out to, what grade are you going to be happy with?
And I think that comes down again to more thought. Like for example, for me, like my goal is these big first appearance books. Like these are not cheap. So, I'm not going to be able to afford high grade, and that's fine. You can find some great looking low grade books and I will happily take that low grade discount but I do want it to present well. Like I'm not going to buy a 2.0 that looks like garbage.
I want a 2.0 that looks like a 7.0 for the price of a 0.5. That's exactly what we want.
That's all I want.
For example, like most recently, not most recently, but recently, Swagahas, who a lot of us watch, got a Journey into Mystery 83, and it was a 1.8. And you look at it like that book looks like a 5. And the reason why it was a 1.8 is because there was a chunk torn off the back cover. I would take that all day, every day. Like, or example, my Marvel Spotlight 5 is a 2.5. Look at it, it looks like a 5. Why? Because someone took a pair of scissors and made like a 3-inch slit in the cover. Like an 1.5 inch slit in the cover at the bottom in the corner. However, in the slab, when I'm not opening the book, you don't see that cut unless you're literally looking at it. So it's like, I take that all day, every day.
Same thing with a 0.5, missing the back cover, missing the front cover, both 0.5s. Which one would you rather
missing the poster inside or something?
Back cover. Now, poster inside makes it incomplete. That's a different story. But back cover, like, I have no issue. The back cover like has a huge stain on it.
You can take a 0.5. You can opt for a 0.5 from my understanding.
Yes.
With missing pieces.
Yes.
Yep.
But
we talked to Alan last week or 2 weeks ago, and he doesn't mind having restored books. So that's another caveat we can get into.
The other caveat though is Alan is going after golden age books where it's like there are just not enough of them out there, right?
I think he did say he would buy a Silver Age.
He did say Silver Age, and like we can talk qualms with that, but like for the most part, he's a golden age collector.
I was kind of curious on that one too. So,
and guys, there's another can of worms right there.
Right. But I'm just saying.
Now the time to go after Purple Label books. Everybody hates them so much. Is the discount too good to pass?
Again, I think it depends on what you're looking at, but that's a whole other discussion.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to go.
I don't want to go either.
He's gonna put kids to bed. My wife's almost home.
Yeah.
All right. We can wrap.
Well, Dan,
we'll do this again.
Thanks so much for having me.
But Dan, we're gonna have you on again because this was great. We could obviously keep going. But no, we definitely love to have you. Thanks for coming on. This is
so much fun. Thank you. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm honored.
Yes, Dan.
I'm flattered. Really.
Appreciate you having
on. All right.
Yeah. Thank you. You guys have a great channel, so I really appreciate that.
Thanks. Well, JP, why don't you take us out?
Oh, everyone, like, subscribe, comment. Tell us why Rohan is the salt to my pepper. Tell us why you like what Dan should collect. Tell us what we should do in life. Yes. We appreciate your comments. So
that's right.
Help me.
Again, we appreciate y'all. Peace out, everybody.
Later.